Call to order the workshop for the budget fiscal year 2018-19, and that's our city manager, Henry Hahn. Lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everyone. Everyone is present and accounted for, council-wise. And welcome those of you in the gallery also. We will have a discussion on the budget. We'll not be receiving any comments from the community at this time. There'll be other times where we can make comments. If you have suggestions, certainly you're free to email any one of us, and there'll be other public comments available before the budget is approved, so we'll reserve those for that time. Little different protocol this time. I'm seeing this budget for the first time. I typically, the way we have done it in the past, last 9 years anyway, the mayor and city manager and treasurer have gotten together and gone through this budget and kind of smoothed out the bumps, I guess, before it comes to council. This is the first time I've seen it, so I don't have any idea what we have here. So we may have lengthy discussions tonight on one item or another. I don't know. Maybe we won't. Maybe everything will be just perfect and we'll just move right through. I want to make sure that I want to let everybody know that it's my desire to hold expenses to the barest minimum and still render the service that we're required to render or that we're expected to render. So just with that statement, we'll begin with the review of the fiscal year 2018-19 general fund budget.
Well, Mayor, I think maybe we just do a little overview of what we got, and I promise not to steal all of Barry's thunder, but you can see the first line, the constant yield will net $75,561 at the current rate of 37. So the other thing noteworthy to look at here is the utility fund, the water and sewer rates. They have not changed. We did not get as much money as we did last year, so we couldn't lower, and nor did we have to raise them. What I want to just make a comment about this particular budget. This is the 7th budget that will be needing to use fund balance to balance. And 3 of those in the past couple of years has been, over $100,000. And the last 2 were $440,000, $471,000 each, close to $1 million for the last 2 years. So what's in this budget is that's kind of a little bit new, not new, but we have put a 2% COLA in for everyone. That's consistent, as I said with the email, that's consistent with the federal, state, and the county. Oh yeah, and you'll notice as we go through here, what I did was just a little bit different than previous years as well, and I separated out the performance evaluation money so that you can see exactly what that number is, and It'll have one that's, like on page 7, on the city manager's report, or my budget, rather. There is $15,183 that I need to distribute to the, based on performance evaluation to the department heads. And you'll see that throughout this budget of other, like Public Works, they have people that they're distributing. And you should see that also in the police department. Other than that, I'm going to, well, who you want to be, who's going to take the lead on this? I guess Barry's going to start, and then you work your way through?
Well, again, I'm new to me, so however you all have it organized, you go right ahead, because I have I've had no input whatsoever so far.
Well, I guess if you look at the revenue, for starters.
Barry, are you on page 1?
Yeah, let us
Yes,
know
page
what
1.
page you're referring to.
I think my pages might be slightly, because I printed one.
This is,
from-
page 1 is the summary.
Summary, okay.
Page 1 of 16 or page 1 of 1?
It's one of one.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, we got the constant yield information, and we determined that with the slight increase in what they indicated were the property values, we would get 75,500 more. We received information from the county with the tax differential amount finalized. We received information from about the highway user amounts, and that's up 11,000.
Does that include the amount that was announced last week?
It was the most recent information I have.
They haven't
hasn't
given
been
us any
finalized.
information. It has not come down from the state.
Governor Hogan added like 4.4 million to what he had originally said.
I know, but that has to do the trickle down.
You haven't seen that yet? Okay.
I think I saw that had to be approved first or something, and it was going to be a while before we got updated information on that. This is the
Right.
most current stuff we have. I wasn't sure about the state police protection grant. I left that the same because it appeared to have been the same over the last few years. And then we need to make up the difference, we need to put in some fund balance, 300,000 for the capital outlay, and then the rest for general fund. I realized late this afternoon while I was reviewing this again, in the general fund balance, that's also 70,000 for police cars. That probably should be over in capital outlay, but I was focusing on the capital outlay and not thinking about the police cars, so I apologize for that error. But it's the 471,000 is still the same. With the expenses, there's an addition of an IT position, which actually keeps the head count the same because there was a position in Public Works that was not replaced. So it was that was at a much higher salary than the IT position. We left the allocations the same, and in the Maryland state retirement, we received information. The employee pension is going up quite a bit for the town staff. The police, the law enforcement officers' pension did not increase nearly as much percentage-wise. And the lion's share of the number of people is in the city, so that's why it's like 19%. It's a bigger increase for a smaller amount, so that's why those percentages look funny, but that's the amount of the total dollars, not the amount of the increase. The admin fees went up slightly, and we don't have insurance for the next year for health insurance, but I've updated this information to our current information. Last year's budget had the previous year's information. And so that's been updated to what we currently have. And those are the highlights.
There's been an ongoing discussion over the last few years about whether we should consider the legit health insurance program for our employees. And I was under the impression we were studying that. Have we got any results on that comparison?
The answer to that is we have not heard from our broker yet, but it is in the mix. We probably won't hear from them till closer to June.
Okay. The tax rate, or the revenue that you generated from the taxes, is that calculated based on last year plus a percentage, or total number of addresses billed, or how did you arrive at the revenue from the tax rate, I guess?
The constant yield tax rate?
Yeah.
They sent us a new assessment in February, and I based it on the new July 1st net assessable real property tax base.
They send us the base, the total property value. They send us that number, and it's based off of that.
So properties that have been added since July 1st wouldn't be included in that base?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question. The county is the one that provides this. And Jay says he thinks it is.
It's in that letter, I think.
I was saying, on this form, they've got the real property gross assessable base as of July 1st, 2017, and then they have a net assessable as of July 1st, 2018, what they anticipate, and it has gone up slightly, about 20,000, I think.
They include the half-year constructions and the estimated full-year constructions and abatement and deletions. So they make estimates on that.
I feel certain there'll be some extra HUR money, and when that comes down to us, I don't know, but it certainly should be within the next week or 10 days. We should have some information there. It concerns me that we are expecting to take that much money out of the fund balance. I think we can afford to do that, but it seems like that's an awful lot of money. I'd like to, as we go through this, look at ways we might be able to reduce costs compared to last year rather than increase costs compared to last year. So.
We are using less this year than the previous year.
Also, what I observed looking at the year-end financials for the previous fiscal year, FY17, is we ended up using less fund balance than was budgeted. Because
how much less? What was the, do you know what the number was?
I did not bring that with me. I know it was less than what was budgeted, and I've also, my experience with budgeting has been when you do a budget, you underestimate revenue and you overestimate expenses.
Yeah.
So.
I'd be curious to know what that actual number would be, because I know that traditionally that's the way that it works. Traditionally we use less fund balance than we budget for, so yeah, I'd like to kind of get a feel for what kind of percentage that was.
Yeah, I can get that to you tomorrow once I look at that and just see how much it came in under budget.
That's what I asked you for. I actually asked you for that this afternoon, but I wasn't clear on what I was asking for. But That's
Yeah, that was
That's
FY '17. I thought you were looking at a 3-year comparison.
But that's all right. If you can get it to me, that's fine.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions on the first page? We can move forward then.
Next page has the detail on the revenue. Real estate taxes were based on the constant yield tax rate. I did not have updated information on the business tax, so I kept that in line with what was budgeted for last year, and I'm looking at the current year, and this was at a it was at a 6-month snapshot, and it looks like we're going to exceed that. So I think by budgeting what we did last year, it's being very conservative.
I'm really concerned about the business tax and the impact that it has, because we've grown substantially compared with last year. There had been a very large expansion of APCO. We've added a new industrial site to town, and several of the businesses have grown. We have half a dozen new businesses planning to come within the next 30, 60 days, and I think we need to pay attention to that number because it could significantly be different than it was this year. Mm-hmm. So I don't know how soon we can get that number, but or where we get that number, but I think that's an important number to consider.
I'll see if I can find any more information on it. And I did not have any updated information on the admission tax or the state income tax either. So the tax differential I did get new information on. So I'm just kind of moving with that until, you know, I'm still trying to figure out where we get some of this information or where it's estimated from.
Have you been in contact regularly with Maryland Municipal League? They're very helpful in preparing budgets. They've got a staff that will walk you through just about any question you might have. So
Okay.
if you just use them as a resource, they're very valuable.
And then on the next page, if there's anybody have any questions about that, I think I just kind of went with what was there previously on the page 1. Page 2, we did update the highway user fees to the most current information, and we'll keep an eye out for any future information coming out for that. I believe that was the only number that we really altered from the previous year, because they all pretty much seem to be.
Is this on the page that's called summary? Is that what we're? Is that what page we're on?
What page you want?
Mine says 1 of 1, but it's at the top. It has
And
summary with a yellow bar through it.
You're on
And then I
2 of
thought we were
16.
just, I got right out of order. I was looking right at the detail, I'm sorry. This one, okay. All right, so, yeah, the highway user was updated, and on the local revenue, I did increase the A component of that is the interest income in checking. As of, for the 2018 budget, as of December, we had already hit the 2018 budget on the interest income on the checking, and the interest rates have gone up, and so I projected 26,000 for the interest income, up from 19,000 for the previous year under the local tax revenue, because the interest rates are rising.
Well, that's something we haven't seen for a while.
Yeah, and every time I get the bank statement, they upped it again. It's like this day it's this and that day it's that, so that's kind of exciting. Then if we look at the expenditures, you know, that those all reference the detail pages. One thing I would note is that the debt service principal is going up, but that's because we're paying more principal and less interest on our loans. So there's correspondingly in the interest expense, there's less interest expense, and we're putting more toward the principal. So that's why the debt service has gone up for this year.
So you didn't separate those out, you added them together, what we pay,
No.
principal and interest?
I'm just.
Because I noticed it just said principal.
Right, that's the principal portion only. And the
Where's the interest?
expense is in one of these buckets. I believe it's under City Hall.
Okay. I was just wondering where it was.
I'm pretty sure it's under, yes, yeah, it makes up 44,000 of the City Hall budget.
Okay.
That's the interest piece. So.
Questions for Barry so far?
Not sure what page is next, because I got my pen.
Here.
Yeah, this, yeah, I've got all the pages up, so once we get.
Just that these were sticking.
This is just another overview of everything, and, I think it's, showing like the, by group, what revenue certain groups bring in and, or certain departments bring in and versus the expenditures. But the, I think is the next page compares, I think, the two yearly budgets. Next page.
Yeah.
This is starting the page 1 of 16, is that where we are now? I'm just at a loss, I'm not following, that's all. Apologize.
I need a copy of that because I printed mine separately. and my page is numbered differently because I printed out each spreadsheet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we
I
have
was gonna
copies.
say, give her what we're looking at.
Yeah. I'm sorry, because I printed out mine and marked them all up.
Oh, that's okay. That's all right.
I didn't realize they, okay.
I think we're a couple pages in where it says 1 of 16 on the bottom right-hand
Okay,
corner.
yes, okay, so we're there. All right.
Okay.
All right.
So, yeah, this is, page 1 is the detail of the revenue. And I was color coding it myself just so I could keep track of what I had information for and what I didn't. The yellow, I did not change the numbers from the previous year's budget. Okay, and I thought that was, and the orange is when I did have updated information from the state or the county.
Okay.
Do we know when we'll have that updated information, or not yet? June?
It depends upon, you know, like I'll take another look at what we're getting in and where we get it from,
Okay.
but,
Sometimes these things lag.
Right. I was just kind of curious about when.
well, and some of these, like, you know, the building permits, that's more of a prediction than anything else. So, that's why I just kind of left them the same, because it looked like we were fairly, you know, we probably take another look at the end of, once we get the March stuff done and see if anything else really shows that it's really going to zoom over what we did last year and look at the reasons why.
Have we considered any kind of impact from Mead's Crossing? I mean, they're out there moving dirt. Has that been factored in any way?
No,
No.
this is not, this is a no-growth budget.
Well, I understand it's a no-growth budget as far as the water hookup fees and that kind of thing.
We won't know that. That comes in on a case-by-case basis. As they get the permits to build, that's when we get the money. So it's really hard to project or look at or guess how much that is until it happens. Matter of fact, in the revenue portion of it, we set that to 0.
So if you go to the page 2 of 16, like I say, the only thing that we've received definite information on that's not a prediction is the state highway user. That's based on the most current information, and depending upon when we get the other thing that's supposed to be coming, you know, that may go up more. But like I say, we're using the same figures from the previous year, and you know, page 3 is just interest income on savings, and that's a very small account. And page,
There doesn't seem to be anything for park impact fees, open space.
Again, that's the same situation. We don't get that until they build.
Well, I'm not particularly talking about Mead's Crossing, but maybe Meadowbrook. I mean, we've built 2 dozen
We've already
houses out
received that
there.
money then. We already received it.
Are they built out?
Which one are you talking about now?
Meadowbrook.
Oh, Meadowbrook, again, that's the same situation. As they register, and, you know, and the,
So where does that show up in the budget?
You talking about the next page with park impact fees or open space park impact fees? Or no? I'm sorry.
right, there is 18,000 of actual in the current year, but nothing was budgeted for the year.
Right.
Because that's, you know,
They consider that growth, and so they don't include it in any of these budgets.
well, that's not really considered growth. That's the impact fee, but it could be looked at
Right, but
that
it's a
way.
result of growth. I mean,
Yeah.
they pay it as they build, so, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
But it's a restricted fund too.
Yes.
So
Well, right.
you have to match it with with a special allocation, which you haven't you don't have any projects to match that with.
Right.
And on page 4, I had used the, like I say, I increased the interest income because the bank rates are going up, and I think that's pretty reasonable,
That's a pretty safe bet.
yeah.
2 more increases from the Fed this year. Just had one last week.
And then if you look at the bottom of page 4, we're asking for much less, like nearly 150,000 less of fund balance than we did the previous year. So we're slowing down using it. On the expenses by department, starting with,
Mary, is there any questions on revenue remaining?
We're on page 516,
Yes.
right?
yes. And we made some small adjustments. Mayor and council, it looks like reducing the amount of legal fees because it doesn't look like we've spent as much as was it budgeted this year, I guess.
I think last year we were accounting for the pending lawsuit, correct? So we
That
had
is
beefed
correct.
that up on purpose. Okay.
So that's
And that one did not materialize.
Okay, thank you.
And as we look at the different departments, yeah, the mayor and council, that decreased mostly because of the legal fees. Finance department the budget request has gone up slightly, and that's due
Mary.
to,
What I think we'd like to do is, department by department, ask if they have any questions.
okay, all right. I'm just trying to rush you guys through. Any questions on mayor and council? Okay. Finance department, it's gone up slightly, and that's mostly because the insurance was not budgeted high enough last year, and
You're speaking of medical insurance?
and the fringe benefits have
Okay.
increased, and they were based on, last year's budget was, this is based on current information. Last year's budget was based on the previous year's information, that because those figures are coming in.
That's a significant increase for sure.
Out of curiosity, Henry, because I see this all throughout, it seems like all the fringe benefits have gone up significantly. What part of those has gone up that high? Because it didn't look like health insurance went up that much.
Well, health insurance, we really don't have the final number on it either.
Right.
Fringe benefits,
I mean, are there additional benefits being added to the packages, or?
no.
Okay.
That's why I think it's important to make sure we're
Exploring all options?
exploring all options.
Any questions on the finance department? The, city manager has the performance increases, raising that, and we raised the insurance slightly. Or no, actually, we dropped the insurance by $50 on that one because it came at, the amount of, in each insurance line, 5215, it's a once-a-year payment and it's already hit. So I looked at that and kind of based it on what actually happened. So the insurance was adjusted up or down depending on.
The performance increase is money that you've set aside to give increases to people that report to you?
That is correct. Yeah, and what'll
Is
happen?
that essentially the department heads, or?
Yes. Well, no, not really. There's the department heads plus, staff downstairs. And that's the two additional that I've got there.
So but in the salaries, we have that 2% COLA built in already, right?
Yes, it is.
So this would be on top of the 2% COLA? Okay.
That's true.
All right, I understand.
And what'll happen, I know it looks, I put it here in this fashion so you can see that number, but eventually what'll happen, that money will be distributed across the departments.
So each department will have a category that says performance increase?
No,
No.
only those like myself who have a lot of people that report to him. There's Kevin, he's got, people that report to him. Police department, they have the same thing.
Okay.
Looking at our current budget, let's look again at the fringe benefits under city manager. It seems like, we budgeted 2455, and as of December 31st, we'd already spent 6384.
I think that's more of an allocation issue that I've got to dig into.
Okay. As in they're not coded properly, or?
Well, when we
Right.
did the budget, there are people that are split across departments.
Right.
And I believe that what's happening is some of the fringe expenses are going to the home department
Okay.
rather than like.
So
a
those
piece
who are
of this
split
and a
between
piece of
city
that.
manager and utility, or public works, you're thinking maybe it's all been put in here as opposed to
Yes.
being split between?
Yes.
Okay, I see.
Yes.
The other question is materials and supplies. How can we have spent -$3?
I was just gonna ask
It
you.
seems like an odd,
I'm efficient.
clearly. Did you save a box of paper clips to return for the new budget, or?
So, yeah,
Okay.
it comes in a box of 100, so.
Yeah, apparently nothing's been ordered and there was a return.
Okay.
I've been stealing it from the rest of them.
All right.
Well, just to touch on that a little bit, not to belabor it, but that's one of those items that are sort of difficult. You do a little bit of windage on the thing, because when we buy a box of whatever we need, like pens or something, that comes in, I get charged one, but I might grab one or somebody else.
Well,
grab
right,
one.
and I understand that. What's bizarre is to see on a budget a negative amount of expenditures.
I gave money back.
Okay.
And an unusual amount, too.
That's something we haven't budgeted. I just wrote the check for today. I nearly fell off the chair when I saw that.
That's for it.
Any other questions on city manager? The IT department salaries are increased because of that additional position that is, well, we trying to budget for it.
This is a part-time position,
No, it's full-time.
full-time.
And that's reflected in the salaries line?
And this
Yes.
is something we need because Dan can't keep up, is that what you're saying?
Well, in the long run, that's true. You know, what I've asked Dan to do is to kind of give me a list of things that he does. And I've got a list of 11 things that he's responsible for. He manages a lot of contracts, and of which some of them are the software for the finance, the copiers and printers, police departments, the Interact 911, the leak detection in the public works department, cell phone contract for the whole city, supports the parks and recs, managed support. We've got, some of the IT stuff that we've got in those areas. He also manages the social media, which is Twitter, Facebook, and webpage. Also does all the video that you see online. And then he also manages the contracts and for the cell towers.
When you say
And-
he manages contracts, what does that mean exactly?
We have contracts for,
I understand it. I mean, is there something is there a daily function that involves managing contracts, or is this?
well, when invoices come in, they usually come in like, on a monthly basis. Yes. But that's just the paper type thing. Then he's got all the other stuff. I mean, this one blew me away. That's our network. And I said, Dan, just keep it simple. I couldn't even describe what all this means.
And what would this assistant position do? What would his function?
Well, that would be sort of, kind of defined when Dan puts together the job description. What I told him to do is, take some pieces and just give that responsibility to that person. And, and I don't know what he's going to do in that area, but for example, he could say, okay, you handle all the social media stuff. And that would be something off of his plate. Oh yeah, he does your photography, Mayor.
I understand. That's a good job. Although he could make me look thinner, I don't know.
Yeah, can he do that?
Yeah, well, so it's quite entailed, and what's happened over time is things have grown, and responsibilities have grown, That's all I can say is it's just inch by inch grown.
Well, I'd be anxious to see that job description, because honestly, again, we talked about this when we did our review, but I just didn't have the idea or the notion that he was overworked.
Well,
But I'm maybe wrong. I may not be looking at the whole picture.
Sometimes for example, in the IT world, it's like you never know what's going to happen. In the recent 2 weeks, past 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I've had my PC go down twice. And he reformatted stuff and got me back up again. It took 4 hours to do that. And then, about a week or so later, it went back down again, and I had to replace the hard drive. So another 4 hours of his time and my time. And then, it's like it's like a fire engine. He's running his fire department because the police will call and something's
Everything is immediate. I mean, when something breaks, you gotta fix it right away. You can't wait till a week from now to fix it. You gotta do it right away. So I understand that.
Right, and that's the nature of IT. That's why we wanted him on, because to take care of those things. But I feel like managing contracts seems a little atypical for a one-person IT department.
What do you mean? Explain.
A one-person IT department usually isn't going to be spending so much of their time managing contracts that probably could belong to another department.
Why would that be?
Why would they go to him?
Like the all cell phones, for example, for the whole
Yeah.
city? Why
Yes.
should that be under IT?
Yes.
Why should it be, though? That's what I
Who
would
else
ask.
would, you're just dropping the load on somebody else then, is all you're doing.
If I could offer some perspective, maybe, I mean, in the way that technology is progressing these days and the way that everything is so interrelated in terms of telecommunications, the internet, it's extraordinary what goes into something in terms of IT at this point. I remember when I'll give you an example, right? When we passed our code of conduct and we ended up going over to use official city email addresses, Dan was the gentleman who set all that up for us. And and I'd never set up a formal email account on my phone before, apart from like a personal email account. So I set up an appointment with him one afternoon to go down to have him walk me through everything. And while I'm down there in his office with him, and he's working on helping to set up my phone, he just paused from going through all of our video from our previous meeting. Meanwhile, we had utilities guys who were coming in to drop off those leak detectors, and he was preparing to go ahead and recalibrate those so we could get those back in the sewer. There was something else that Henry had called about needing fixed while I was there, in addition to him working on my phone. So he's, Henry's description, I think, of a firehouse is pretty accurate.
It is.
Especially, with the amount of dependence we have on technology now to function effectively.
It seems like IT touches on everything. I know I was I was reading down his report once.
Right.
And I got to water and sewer billing, and I thought, what's he got to do with that? But then when I thought about it, I said, gee, that's IT as well.
Yep, the software upgrades and things.
Exactly, the upgrade that we got, that's IT. So it's like IT touches on almost every function.
And when, that system does a blip, and sometimes it does a blip, he's there working with the company to fix the blip.
Well, again, it's not my position to oppose it. It's just I'm just trying to understand it. I just don't.
Well, again, what's
Maybe
really,
I just don't grasp the complexity or the pressure that he's under to get all this stuff done, that's all.
right. And over the time, what's happened is there have been additional things that's been, put onto him, like the social media stuff. In the beginning, man, we didn't bother with that. We didn't have that, and now it's like we tweet, we wits, and everything else that you can think of. And all I can tell you is that he doesn't have much time in the day, and normally he winds up, behind. And it's catch up. And
So are we able to get a copy of what he provided you there?
for what?
Or what you just listed off? You had him list all of his,
I wrote that.
okay.
I'd sure like to see that.
I would be equally.
Mr. Mayor, just, the argument's being made in the budget so far that because this position is overworked, we need to add another position. So the issue is what tasks are under IT, like, and I mentioned the cell phone contract for the entire city, that would be more appropriately in other parts of the budget, and if you would reassign some of those duties, then we wouldn't need another IT person. Because they're not exclusively IT related.
Who would do it? Who
Well,
would do the work?
The question
and
is,
it would be very helpful
up
to
there
see that
to
the,
grow an IT department to do general city tasks?
Well, these are just some of the things, there's, you know, these other things he's put together, and one of the things that I asked him to do was to put together a typical hours spent on a month. And he's done that. And what he's, you know, we're paying, you know, there's 9 hours of overtime each week that he needs to do to get the job done. So I'll make copies and give this to you. And I'll send it out in
I'm
email.
also interested in the job. I'd like to see the job description. I want to see what the new guy's going to do. That would be
Okay.
very,
Just one final point on that, Mr. Mayor, if I might make the point that if you would reassign some of those tasks, they'd be under different department heads.
right.
Because there are other department heads that manage.
But you're only shifting.
Those tasks.
When you do that, Councilman, the only thing you're doing is shifting work from one person to another.
It just changes who the manager is.
You're shifting the
For
work.
general business.
You're shifting the work.
Well, I'm
Someone's
not
gotta do
saying
it.
that somebody doesn't have to manage the cell phone contract. Somebody definitely does. But it just would be a different management structure if those general city tasks were not put in the IT department.
Some of them are technical, and who knows, and that's the other issue.
Well, I think if we get this description and we see something that's glaring, then we can talk about it. But, you know, if
What did you think
Well,
about
and
that?
that's kind of what I've been saying is we really don't have the information here. I understand there's technical things, but when you say managing a cell phone contract, that's not hyper-technical.
Well, it is when we get new phones, and they have to be set up.
Well, I understand, but he's not managing the contract.
Yes, he is.
In what way?
In every way.
Is he just choosing what's necessary, what we need, what we
Well,
get?
that we get billed, there's a billing system that, you know, that we get billed by. There's invoices that come in on a monthly basis that someone has to look at to make sure that, you know, it's being used properly. So then when the contract's up, somebody's got to write the specs. And then we put it out to bid, you know, somebody's got to do that. And that's one of the things that, you know, I did talk to Dan and I said, look, what we need to do is put together what you would have this person do that would take the load off of your shoulders and free you up a little bit.
And, you know, if we can eliminate those 9 hours of overtime, that'll go to a good way to pay that person's salary.
Well, I'm sure Dan would like that as well.
Except that we're already budgeting for more overtime. So it doesn't seem like we're fixing an issue there.
Well, that's something we need to address.
So we just have two people
Everything-
working 9 hours of overtime
Everything
every week.
requires a trade-off. I meant when I started, we need to look for ways to reduce expenses. And overtime is the first thing that we should look at. All right, are we through with IT?
We're on page 8 now, right?
Yeah, we're still at the center of page 8. There, not much at all changed with clerks, except we did put in 2,500 for the election, which would take place in 2019. which is what, that's the significant difference between last year and this year for that.
And just to be clear, we can no longer use the county machines. So they won't let us use them. That means we're gonna have to go out and rent some.
Well, it was fun while it lasted for what, that one election or?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's sad.
Out of curiosity, did they provide an explanation for that or they just put a stop to it all around?
I don't remember. Do you remember?
Okay. Very good.
And going toward the bottom of page 8 with zoning,
One question, just
Okay.
a general question, I guess, on the workman's compensation number, we've kind of left the same. And I'm just wondering, because of the Premier Partner Safety Award that we received, did that reflect any way in the premiums that we're being charged for what we do?
Yeah.
Yeah, any discount premium you would have had was spent on the
Yeah, I
platform.
was gonna say, there it is.
we actually did get a credit toward the payments, which was in this fiscal year, but I just was conservative and kept it the same number because the payment wasn't,
It was $2.
the credit wasn't that much.
Spend it wisely.
All right. Pennies make dollars, I always say.
We, like I said, zoning, the first part of it was fairly much the same. On page 9, if you look towards the bottom of the zoning thing, there's a certified investment expenditure payment that's gone up from 1,000 to 32,000, and Jim's notes say they are 10% of preliminary numbers for George's on York B&B conversion expenses. So I'm not sure what that means, but that was the,
Well, that's the program that we have, that, you know, they're allowed to take, what, 10%? Or 10% of the value of improvement, and we pay them for that.
Okay.
I see there was a smaller increase, but an increase in equipment purchase. Are we anticipating some equipment to make his job easier, or we can go from $100 to $850?
Well, good news is Jim's here to answer that one. What are you gonna buy?
It must be a drone.
Must be a drone. Are you gonna be flying drones around, Jim?
I've been preaching that for a couple of years now.
I can help you get a Part 107 and get you on there. That's easy.
It's primarily for an additional hanging file rack and a stand for them. We're basically the racks down there are holding more sheets than they're supposed to. They're designed for, to the point where sometimes when you lift the racks out, all the sheets fall out because there's
Right.
too much weight in them. So we need to, and those things have to be maintained permanently.
Right.
So we need more storage space, and the racks are expensive.
Okay, so you do have a lot of plans down there, so that makes, okay.
Yeah, we got them going back 20, 30 years.
any other questions on zoning? And planning and zoning didn't really change much. Looks like we dropped 500 in consulting and engineering, so that actually went down. And,
You know, the reasoning for that was, for the drop in consulting and engineering?
It looks like we haven't used any
Yeah, I was
as
gonna
of
say.
December of 2017. I'm not even sure the last time we did use any for planning.
I was
and-
gonna say, we haven't done anything.
That's more of a contingency.
Right.
We've really lessened our utilization of the consultant engineer in terms of things that are not billed for developers. So we're not using CDM Smith to come to attend planning commission meetings or do much review that's not billable through, to the developers ultimately. But there still could be occasions where we have some city infrastructure issue that comes up that we do need to bring them in for. So we do have some money available in the event that we do need a few trips from, CDM Smith to come to planning commission or something like that.
Okay. For BZA, I see that we don't budget any expenditures. Obviously, we hope that whatever they pay for their hearing is going to cover the cost of the hearing.
It does.
Okay.
Guaranteed.
I also see that we spent 983 as of December 31st. Was that
Right.
not covered by?
No, that's just how much we spent, and it washes out on the other side.
Okay.
Might not have been, that might be one of the things we bill out then.
Right.
And it might not have been billed at the time that was run.
Yeah, that should always be net zero.
Right. Okay.
Moving on to code enforcement, the remediation went up by $2,000 because there's more rubbish abatements and some are becoming much more costly because they involve more than mowing and weeding. Feel free to chime in, Jim.
We've gotten a bit more aggressive with cleaning up derelict properties in terms of doing more than just mowing the yards. And also just based on the year-to-date numbers, we haven't hit peak mowing season for this fiscal year. So I anticipate next year the trend's going to continue. And that money ultimately is recovered when, for example, a vacant house that's in foreclosure that we go and do a cleanup and we mow the lawn through the season. Eventually, when that house changes hands, we recover that abatement cost. But it does take a while to eventually get.
So we do that by putting a lien on the title, or? Okay.
We don't sign the municipal
Yeah.
agreements until they've
Paid up.
made us whole for any abatement expenses.
Okay, but we never know how long that's going to take to do. I mean, some of these foreclosures houses could sit there for 5 to 10 years before the bank does anything. Okay.
Economic development, the dues and subscriptions went up by $400 because there were rate hikes, the increases in the dues. And then the EDC Main Street program has been increased because there are more projects coming up. And then on page 10, also increased postage, anticipating a possible rate hike, but then printing was reduced because she's also anticipating printing less. So actually, economic development is coming in less because she also has cut contractual in half because that's not being used very much, or if at all.
What are we planning to spend the $15,000 marketing initiative on? Did you mention that?
I don't have that. She said there were more, her note said more projects. I'm not completely familiar with what it is that money goes toward yet.
I thought, wasn't that money, Diane, for the some
Is
abatement.
that where that is? I thought,
Yeah,
For the what?
For what?
I thought the $10,000 was,
okay, maybe I'm,
What's it for?
help me, Jay, the derelict property
There-
thing.
We were gonna have an initiative to deal with downtown
Yeah.
derelict property. It's specifically code enforcement and abatement for that.
Yeah.
And we started to do that last year. And then the Chinese restaurant changed hands, which was what we were targeting. And so now we're trying to switch the goal to other properties on Main Street.
so if that was, if that would, you know, it should have already shown up in Jim's budget if $10,000 was there. I thought it was a little odd to put it there too.
Yeah, because I said, where is that? I thought, it's not, when I saw this 10 in Main Street, I thought that was it, but that's not a good place for it either.
We did it under economic development last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm looking under economic development, I'm just
Yeah,
questioning where they broke it out. But that is where we put it.
last year, that's what we had said.
Okay.
So is it in there this year, we're saying, or did we move it to, because I don't,
That's staying there.
I'm sorry?
It is staying there.
Yeah, it's there, it's just, we're questioning where they broke it out.
Well, then that's what I'm,
I think it's under contractual, isn't it? Right?
is
Is that
it,
what it says?
No, marketing
Marketing
initiative.
initiative.
That, you know, that may be coded wrong as far as marketing initiative too.
I think it is.
I feel like that should, I mean, if we're talking about abatement.
Well, it really doesn't
code and-
describe what it is, for sure.
I
Right,
mean, do we need another line here?
or do we put it where it belongs? In code
That was-
enforcement?
Well, it's not really code
No,
enforcement.
we,
No,
no,
Well,
we
everything
wanted
you
it-
just described to me is
We
code
wanted it
enforcement.
specifically in EDC.
Right, I think it's probably okay in EDC.
Because you wanted to target that money to downtown.
Yes.
Right,
And if it was in code enforcement, you could, but it was supposed to also not necessarily be, I gave you all the stuff that is reality, but it was also supposed to be for incentives. If you could come up with an incentive to somebody, don't know what those were, but not necessarily code stuff, but also incentives, and I guess maybe why she has it under marketing.
Then perhaps adding another line with that description might be a little cleaner for us to see.
I agree.
You said that was 10,000 for that?
Yes.
Before you move on from that one, I think the overall intent there is a combination of addressing derelict properties, but the overall intent was to try to make the downtown a more presentable environment, make it more appealing, thus the marketing slant on it.
And I think what we'll do is, you know, get with Nancy and with Barry and try and figure it out. What to call it.
But definitely leave it there.
So let me ask this question then, Diane, is the intent to, see, marketing initiative to me also means some other things that you're trying to bring business in. Is this all the same? Or will we have another category, will we have marketing initiative and then whatever that is?
Marketing and whatever that is.
Okay, so what about the money that's there then? Are we gonna, you
The
know,
10 needs to stay for what it was originally intended for.
Okay, so
which is derelict properties, what all is involved with addressing that.
yeah. So what I guess then was we'll probably have to add some money in for marketing.
Well, I thought you said it was already in here, that 10,000.
Well, that's what we just said, we can break it out.
Well, I know break it out, but then why would we add more money if it's already there? We just need to put it on a separate line.
Okay, well, the
Why,
10,000
or
stays.
did I,
Wait, are we talking about two different lines? Because there's one in here for 10,000 last year, 15,000 this year, but then on the next page, there's one for marketing initiative for 15,000 this year. See, on EDC Main Street program on the one page, and then on the next page, there's,
I think the Main Street program is something different.
that's something separate?
Yeah.
All right,
So
so
where's-
I'm just, what I'm understanding is when we had the talk a little bit ago, everyone said it's in here, it's just not broken out. Now we talk about breaking it out, and you're saying we need to add more money. So I'm just trying to understand.
That's, that's a question.
Okay.
It just seems to me that, you know, there's a difference between marketing initiative and whatever this new thing's gonna be called. So should there be any money in marketing initiative, you know? I have to talk
All
to
right.
Nancy and find out.
Then I
Yeah,
guess.
I think we need to clear this up
Okay.
with Nancy, making sure that that 10,000 is still there, and she has the correct figure for marketing.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Because you see that 15 in two places.
Right, it's in two
Right.
places, and we're kind of confused what, you know.
And then we're using the number 10, but also the number 15, and I guess that's where I'm a little confused too. Is it
Yeah,
that-
are we talking about just 115, or are we actually talking about 25?
Right, right.
Actually, I was looking at my notes here.
Uh-huh.
And under the marketing initiative, her comments on her draft budget were heavy marketing program with social media. So that's, I believe, something else she's
Okay, so
with. So
Yeah.
that's her comment to which figure?
the marketing initiative is a heavy marketing program for social media.
Oh, okay, so she's talking about that whole 15?
Yes.
Obviously.
So $15,000 for social media?
A lot of social media.
So,
We're paying somebody to do something, I guess. Because that doesn't make sense to me.
We'll have to get some clarification.
Okay, that would be
That's just-
awesome.
and then the other point of clarification, and maybe I've just gotten confused, if somebody could correct me on this, when we were talking about incentivization, dealing with downtown derelict property, code enforcement, what line item did that come in under? What item?
We don't know.
No, okay, all
We're
right.
getting clarification.
Okay, all right, so I'm not just lost. Okay,
Okay.
all right.
You are, but we all are.
Okay, that's good. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, so we're all agreed we're terribly confused about economic development. Move on to
Yeah,
city.
between the 15 for marketing initiative and where the 10 is for the addressing the derelict property.
Right.
Well, and I think that brings me to something that I've wondered about for a couple of years is why don't we receive anything from the department saying what their goals are for the year and what they need from us to make it happen? I mean, if they come to us asking for this money, we have no idea really what they're gonna do except to trust that they have goals,
Oh,
but we don't. And it's not a micromanaging thing, it's a simple fact of, you know, they come to us, say, I wanna hit this heavy, I need some extra money for it, here's the goal.
well, that's basically the purpose of the budget heads preparing their budget and passing it on to Henry and Barry and past years me. That session that we would get together, we would explain that. And each department head would justify what they had in their budget and why it was in their budget. And, you know, if we agreed, then we moved forward. If we didn't agree, we didn't move forward.
Which I understand, but now you're not in that loop, and so the people who have to approve this budget aren't given any of that information whatsoever.
And you're right, because this is a different process that we're doing this time. And if we continue to do it this way, that's what we're gonna need to do. Is identify, you know, what the money's gonna be used for. That's what you're asking for, right?
Essentially, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if they can tell us what the goals are for the year and what they need from us to make it happen. That way, I mean, gives us a little more vested interest in what they're doing if we know what they plan on doing this year, what they plan on doing to make the city better, that they want our money, the city's money, for us to approve.
And that way we can justify our decisions to the citizens themselves.
Essentially, I mean, right now, $15,000 for what I'm told is social media, I'm gonna need more explanation than that.
That's it. I'm not sure if that's all that it's for.
Well, right, and
But she
that's,
is trying to really hit.
I
like,
understand,
market
and that's kind of my
our
point
events.
is.
Yeah, that's not all of what it's
Yeah, I
for.
mean, there's
Right.
newspapers
And that's what's making my
cable
point
ads,
is,
and we don't have any detail.
what exactly are we marketing? I mean, I don't want us to be marketing the barbershops in town for them. I want to make sure that, you know, what we're doing is accomplishing a goal.
And if you put detail on here, it'd be 200 pages long.
Right,
So you can't have it on here.
Right.
Separate.
okay.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Hit that city hall.
City Hall is down slightly, mostly because the interest expense is lower because we're paying more on principal on the loans. And that very bottom line, that's where you see most of that change.
Henry, can you explain, and maybe Barry, you could explain, back on, let's say, page 1 under revenue. County revenue code is 4210, cable TV franchise. We're looking at 78,100, same as last year. But now I see our expenditures for PEG cable TV franchise are increasing $8,700.
What happens is, we get the money in, we give it to pay.
Give it to who to pay?
That's pay, that's what it's called.
Okay.
Okay. So if we're paying out more, how are we not getting more in to cover that, I guess is, I'd like to see a little yin and yang there, a little balance, but,
What happens is there's an agreement
right?
that where they pay so much money for us to, to get on the,
Isn't it a percentage of our
it
franchise
is a
fee?
percent, it is a percentage, and then the pay obviously has increased what they need.
Right. So then what impact do we have on the revenue that we're receiving?
It's not gonna change the revenue.
I understand, but now all of a sudden, revenue that we label as cable TV franchise, but now we're paying more out, which is gonna be less money in the funding here. Does that, am I looking at it correctly?
Well, I think you are.
Okay,
It's a matter of, finding out why PEG is charging us more.
okay.
Renegotiating.
If we're.
But put the hammer down, Henry,
They should
just,
correlate.
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like it should.
Well, PEG does not get all of it.
Okay. Who is PEG?
No, please go right ahead.
Public, something or other.
That's the
education.
people that take,
No.
Yeah,
the people that come with the
Community
Community
media
Media
center.
Center.
yeah,
public education and government channel.
yeah.
Okay. So we pay them a franchise fee?
We get a
We
franchise.
pay them a percentage of our franchise.
Right. We get the franchise
We
fee.
get a
Okay.
franchise fee.
So then what we're saying is that percentage has increased. If we're taking the same revenue and we have to give them a percentage, but we're paying them more, so that percentage has increased?
No, the percentage that you get from the cable stays the same. I don't know how long the contract is for.
Okay,
5%.
Wasn't it
But
10 years
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they wanted?
And you can see it on your bill, 5% franchise fee, because
Right. okay,
that stays the same unless we get new users.
okay.
Now,
The only
we
thing
have
that
a
would
deal.
affect that is the number of users.
so we have a deal with the cable access people, with PEG channel, whatever you want to call it, the Community Media Association.
Okay.
Like everyone else in the county, we signed an agreement with them, and that's where the cable board came into
Right.
and things like that.
I remember that.
That we fund them to some extent. I don't know what it is, but that's where the expenditure part
Okay,
comes out.
so we're funding them more than previously?
It appears that way.
Okay.
But again, I believe that that's also a percentage that's probably going up
Okay.
of the
I just-
money that we get coming in.
Well, we would have had input in that, if they were gonna raise the percentage of contribution that the municipalities were gonna make, we should have known about that.
Right.
Who's our community meeting, who's our person?
That would be, what was Dan?
Marion Water Community Media Center.
No? our representative.
Oh, our cable?
Yeah.
Well, it was Daniel,
Yeah.
Right.
but I know, did he pass it up when he went off to,
Nothing official came our way.
okay.
Need to check with Dan.
I kind of feel like we're kind of getting blindsided with this. It's a pretty lengthy increase, or pretty high increase here,
They came, not this past year, but
Yeah.
a year before,
right? And they were begging,
for something.
right?
We did it. I don't remember what it was, but we signed on with everyone else.
Well, that was a letter of support.
Yeah, but it was more than that.
I didn't think it was financially tied.
And I don't know whether it had an escalation in there. I mean, I don't remember what it was, but that's what you need to check, is to see, did our commitment escalate over time to them automatically? Because we don't, where did this number come from? That's the first question,
Well, right,
right? If they sent it to
That's
us, the question is why?
okay. Some
When
clarification.
we did that a couple of years ago, what I remember was that they were asking for more money, you know, and they wanted, if you remember, Marion was asking for our support.
Right.
And that got tied up with the county as well, and I'm not sure what the total outcome is, but
I was
other
gonna
than,
say,
other
never
than
knew
Marion Ware
what-
doesn't
yeah.
work there anymore.
I remember that they were asking for municipality support at the table, so that they had a spot at the table to negotiate things.
Right.
That was what they were here for. And,
They wanted a spot, yes.
right, they wanted a spot, they wanted municipalities to, push to help them get this spot. There was no asking us for money. I mean, I don't recall that we signed an agreement that
No,
had any fiscal anything to it.
I think that, I think we did.
I thought we adopted a community city, us with the county, so. I think we should just call them.
Yeah.
Find out what the
Right.
story is and why the number.
Okay. Thank you.
Now I'm kind of curious about I'm sorry, the electric and the fuel for City Hall, the Annex, and for Roberts Mill. I noticed for City Hall and Roberts Mill, the electric and fuel has gone down, but for the Annex, it's remained the same. Is that because rates have varied? Is it because we've had the energy efficient stuff that we put in a couple years ago, or is it just that?
They're not using heat.
Well, everything in this building is electricity. And the rates would be the same for all of them. It's usage.
Gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
I'm cold down there too a lot. And then Jim he's Mr. Rogers, he wears his sweater.
So if it's usage, then it would be from the energy efficiency stuff that we installed a couple years ago?
Yes,
Okay, cool. So that is paying dividends to us.
yes.
Awesome.
So City Hall Annex, should that number be lower, whereas we see it everywhere else has gone down?
Well, it depends on, how well they want heated over there. No?
How long?
And what it takes
Yeah, I
to
don't think the
heat the
annex is.
building.
Right.
This building could be different than the other.
Okay,
Right, because I know we updated or upgraded
Leave the
City
back door
Hall.
open, and there goes the heat.
Exactly.
Well, I know we upgraded City Hall. Didn't we also?
We did everything.
We did everything.
right.
All of our facilities now have the energy efficient,
HVAC. and-
yeah, the HVAC.
Right, so according to this budget, though, we're gonna be spending more on electric and fuel for the Annex than we will for City Hall.
Correct.
Well, obviously, that's got to be based on
I mean,
previous.
are we heating the vault over there, or?
Maybe. Well, the only thing I can tell you is that they
The new
based.
IT person's office.
Are we using cryogenics in the server room? Okay, I feel like trending from all the other places that number would be lower, but especially since as of
I'm sure
December,
that-
it was only
yeah,
600.
But I'm sure that they based it on the previous history of that location.
Okay,
Is that an accurate thing, Eric?
I believe so.
And, they go out so far as to find out if there's going to be any rate increases in the coming year, so that they can put that in there as well. Same as what the police chief does, the same thing.
right. Okay.
Thank you. Page 10. Although we might be going on page 11 now. Or 12.
I like your thinking.
Oh. Are we on page 11 then? Bottom of 10 into 11?
Well, I think we were talking about the annex, and then there's still, I guess, Head Start.
Right.
The Roberts Mill facility.
Which that brings up a lot of questions, to me at least. Because that expense has increased dramatically, and considering the incredible deal we're giving them on rent, we're taking a bath of $10,200 annually for this thing, based on this budget.
How much? I'd say yes.
Can I ask why? I mean, I really don't understand why
Well, our agreement-
you should do that.
Our agreement with them basically says that we take care of the utilities
Okay,
100%.
I understand.
They pay us $50 a month.
Well, and I don't see how that's, why we have to subsidize that. Like, I just don't understand why it can't be market rent on the property. If we're taking in all of these other expenses, and we're supposed to take a bath of over $10,000 a year on that property that we can't even use because they've outfitted it for themselves. So it's not like we can use it on weekends to have employee functions. It's at $50 a month.
That's why you're up there.
Okay. And that's why I'm pointing it out. I mean, I see this big increase from $360 to $6,000 in contractual. Is there work that we have to do to this property?
We do maintain the building,
I
yes.
understand. Is it in need of major maintenance now that,
In some areas, you can look through the wall and see the outside.
so is it even fit to rent?
Well,
Is it fit to be standing?
let's talk about what is out there, you know? Technically and realistically, that building should probably be raised.
Right.
Because if you take a look at the foundation's coming away. Mm-hmm. Okay, and if you take a look at the shed that's there that we keep equipment in, that's not in good condition either. So the building is really, you know, seen its better day.
Right. And so instead of us essentially losing $10,000 a year on this thing, is it time to just bite it and rip it down?
Where would they go?
I don't know. They can find someone that can rent them a building.
It is a community service we're providing for the
Well, we needed,
least fortunate people in the town, so
just to bring that knowledge.
you know, you like to get a return on investment, but the return on investment can be other than monetary value.
Well, if there's any adjustments that need to be done or you want to do them, now's the time because the contract is up July 1st. And we're in the process of renegotiating that right now. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that you know, I requested a change is that, you know, it was a year-to-year contract. And, you know, so I would, you know, I thought since we have to do work every year, it would be better to have a 3-year contract. So we're in the process of doing that, so maybe we not do that at all.
I mean, for how many years have we had it set at that rent?
Forever, since day one.
That building used to be Rod and Gun Club, is that correct?
A long time ago it was a Rod and Gun Club, then we bought the property and then we used it. Well, that's where the community, what was that called, Jim? Community Center, that's it, yeah. Right? That's where the community center, it evolved into that, and then it evolved into Head Start. And it's been Head Start probably about 20 years.
Right.
How many kids they put in that place? No idea.
Well, there's a limit. I guess you have to go inside and take a look at what that is. And they just recently did renovations in there where the student population increased, and there's regulations with, you know, the number of bathrooms you have to have per student. And so they just, the population grew, so they had to renovate the bathrooms. And that was at their cost. But
Well, this is probably food for another discussion. I don't need that we spend a whole lot of time on what we're gonna do with the facility right now. We need to decide that at another time.
Well,
Well, it's in the
time is
budget.
now.
Right, it's in the
Because
budget, so we need
The
to.
contract is up on July 1st.
Well, it'd be better to talk about it, I think, at a workshop or a city council meeting, because there's other issues than the physical plant that we're dealing with. We have to consider the community at large and who's taking advantage of it and so forth, so.
Henry, the contract that's up in July, was that 3 years?
No,
That was just
we had been doing
Year to year.
annually.
year to year?
Yeah, and, it's a pain for them, it's a pain for us.
Well, we may have to do another contract and still talk about it for next.
So what that means, in my opinion, is to go back to an annual contract.
Yeah.
So we would, because we know how long it takes for us to get around and talk
I mean, it's not going to get figured out
before July 1st.
exactly.
So
That's
we're
going to be on your agenda next week,
Yeah.
the contract. I mean, it's up already.
See?
Well,
So
then, we
We-
have time to talk
you have
about it
60
then.
days to figure out what you're doing, and so we can talk about it next week, but
We could structure the contract as a one-year contract, and then if the council wants to do something else, then they can.
Is that the direction y'all want to go, is back it up to a one-year contract?
See, that's what I was suggesting.
Right.
That's the way it was.
Yeah,
But it-
back it up to a one-year contract, but we still have to figure out what to do about this.
Got it? Make it
keep
so.
going down.
So have we just settled something for Monday?
Yes.
Well, I know what's in your package. at least.
Okay.
It's going to be different. Instead of-
Okay.
Yeah,
it's
Mr.
one
Mayor?
Instead of 3.
I'd like to ask everybody's permission to be excused from the rest of the meeting. I've just started to get a migraine, and I've got about 15 minutes to get home before it hits and I start getting sick, so.
Well,
Okay.
Take care.
before Joe leaves,
Careful, Joe.
Thank you.
what I want to at least bring up is the possibility of having another meeting
Okay.
for this type of thing, but there is a schedule that we have to adhere to. We have to have, a lot of the ordinance has got to be introduced 9th and past 14th, published, we got to publish the
Go if
once
you
a
need
year.
to. We can get you the date.
I'll let you know, Joe, if they decide to
We'll
do
get
that.
Joe
I'm-
an email.
I'm
He
okay.
has to go.
Yeah, I'm perfectly okay with another meeting. I have no problem with that at all.
Okay, we'll talk about that when we get to the end of this one, I guess.
Okay, very good.
I just want to apologize to everybody. I'd never know when these things are going to
No
hit.
need to apologize. Go take care of yourself. Go in a dark room. Think happy thoughts.
Well, at least, Joe, you do get a little bit of a warning.
That's right.
Nobody likes a warning for this.
Thank you, everybody. I hope you have
Okay.
a wonderful night again. I'm very sorry.
No problem. Good night, Joe.
Can you drive? Or do you need to ride?
What? I'm good.
He's got a
I've
few
only
minutes.
got half of the blind spot right now. So.
I've seen him drive on regular days. He's
Only got a half of a blind.
Alright.
Are you
Okay.
sure you don't need some help getting home?
I'm positive, thank you.
Okay.
I got 15 to 20 minutes.
All right,
Thank you very much.
okay.
okay.
Are we on page 12?
I think we're on.
I think we're on 12 now. That Head Start is being,
Yes.
putting it to a 1 year, and at some time in the future, we're going to discuss it.
Between now and when it's time again, we'll figure it
In
out.
a year. You'll have a year. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, page 12.
Police Department. Are there any highlights, Barry? or-
I would comment the salaries are slightly lower even with calculations because they've had turnover and they're bringing people in at,
At lower salaries?
lower salaries.
Okay. So same number of officers, but,
Well,
Yeah.
we've already lost one.
okay.
All right.
And
Mary,
then
what I don't see in here is what we talked about.
he did not, I did not get a figure for that.
Okay, well, we're gonna need it. And I know I very clearly told him that.
Yeah, I did not get a figure for that.
So Henry, I know you said, I know we lost one, but we're still anticipating funding for the full 14
Right,
officer force.
yeah,
Okay,
right, yeah.
very good.
And their travel, training, and education was bumped up partially due to turnover too, because they need to, you know, send some of them for, you know, more training than others.
At some point in time, we're going to also have to face the issue that it's very hard to find officers that come completely trained. You know, the training facilities are shutting down, right?
So,
You know that.
right. I mean, you still have the big two in the area putting them out, but,
Well, what's not happened so much is people doing it themselves.
right. So are we exploring the option of putting people through? I mean, we're probably one of the only departments in the county that doesn't offer to put people through the academy. Westminster does it. I think Hampstead did it not too long ago.
Well, it's certainly cheaper if they pay.
Well, I understand that.
But at the same time, I think we're getting back to that cycle again where we had the difficulties getting people from the academy.
Well, that's what, I mean, state police, obviously they pay better, but they put people through. County pays better and puts people through, so.
State police
Well,
only
the
put
last
state
two
police
hires
through,
we
right?
made were
I'm
excellent
sorry?
hires. Last two hires we made were excellent hires, very experienced officers.
Right, but they weren't out of the academy, they were lateral from other agencies.
Howard County and Anne Arundel.
Baltimore County was one.
State police only put state police through, is that correct? Or they do for other agencies too?
Well, it's the same, for example, Carroll County uses the same facility state police does down in Sykesville. It's just for state police, their recruits live there during that time. Sheriff's Department, they don't live there, but they use the exact same
Okay.
facilities. And then I think someone else was using Frederick City to do their training. I can't remember which department that was, but I mean, there are options out there to do it.
There was a training facility in Hagerstown too.
Hagerstown Community College offers a police academy, as well as Harrisburg does it, but unfortunately they don't come out Maryland certified, they're Pennsylvania certified. So,
Okay. Again, that's probably a discussion for another time,
Yes,
but I just wanted to bring up that it's approaching.
right.
okay.
Any other questions or comments on police?
I see we lowered the expected cost of towing and impoundment. Are we anticipating towing less vehicles, or have we put that out for bid, the cost of towing?
No. That's, again,
It's
that's,
just trends?
yeah, that's one of those things that, again, you know, you might tow 10, you might tow 15.
Okay,
It might be a consideration though for something to put out for bid.
right, I agree.
We've tried that.
That
I
could,
thought we were doing that at
No, we tried doing that, and if you recall, one of the companies, you know, wanted us to pay for their facility. and
Right.
We decided that wasn't good for us. And now, there is one of the towers that I know have actually put a facility, and it's got to be state police certified facility.
Right.
And
Fenced in, we wanted it in city limits, correct?
no, that's saying the facility that you haul those things to have got to meet certain standards.
Right. Okay.
We wanted it in state.
In state,
Yeah, it was
People were taking it to
Pennsylvania that-
Littlestown, and we
yeah,
said that wasn't going to
okay.
happen.
Right.
'Cause
We're gonna haul the vehicles to Littlestown, we said no.
Right. I mean, I've had people come up to me who have towing companies that ask me how they can get the police department contract. They said, it all goes to Wance, and that's not fair. I couldn't tell you. My understanding is Wance has a very good response time when they're called.
Exactly.
And I know there was talk once of doing a rotating thing, but I imagine that would be insanely cumbersome for our officers to figure out who's next on the rotation.
Yeah,
I don't have a solution, but
yeah.
possibly bidding it,
Well,
we could try
again,
again.
you're looking at an $8,000 contract, so it's not a huge contract.
I know it's not a huge contract, but
But for a small businessman, it's.
at least
it's
give,
important.
maybe give someone a chance to try.
I would encourage that, I really would.
Well, I've done that before with the contracting for environmental, where what we would do is we would go out and we would have a multi-contract, and we would have 3 or 4 people that would win. And what we would do is you say, okay, I would go to the low bid first. If they couldn't respond, then I go up the list till I get somebody who's going to come. That's how we handle the environmental stuff.
Well, we impound 2 or 3 cars a month, that's what we do.
Man, one of those is yours.
One was mine, I don't think so.
Okay.
Missing a car?
Moving on.
Okay, police secretary, and this can probably be revised downward slightly because Nina's retiring.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nina's retiring, yeah.
And I believe the position's being offered at less.
At a lower salary,
Yeah,
yeah.
so this needs to be tweaked.
Yeah, I saw that salary is right around 30,000 instead of 34, so that's. Okay. You took away one of my questions.
That's her job.
Perfect.
And, yeah, crossing guard didn't really change much at all.
Well, while we're on that, and this could be a budget issue. And Roxanne has had surgery, and she's had a couple more toes removed from the other foot. And she's not even sure she's going to be able to come back. So we've always had a plan, at least I know the police chief and I have had that plan, that when she retires, that's it.
We're eliminating the position, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And the reason we kept that position really was because Roxanne has been with the city maybe the longest, am I going to say the longest? Huh? Well, okay, well, a long time.
30 years, I think.
So she was out there when I was riding the school bus to school, so.
Yeah. But that was only,
I wasn't that long.
Youngster.
Yeah, well, in any event, we're probably going to be getting a reduction in that as soon as she makes up her mind. But the kids love her, I can tell you that.
There's a unique bond between a child and a crossing guard. Just saying. You see it on commercials all the time. Hollywood's made of those moments.
Okay, one of the things that I'm going to have to get is Bill has got to change this as far as putting it in the same context that the rest of them are. How much money he needs for performance evaluation.
All right.
Is that because it's not in there at all? Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not in there. It's
Okay.
probably been incorporated into the total.
Okay.
Are we looking at streets now?
Yep, that's what I'm looking at.
All right, okay, and salaries, for street, with the allocation, it dropped, considerably because of because of the way they're allocated, because some of the staff are split between 4 different, units, but I think the one, position that was not replaced was a significant chunk of that.
Correct.
So just to attach, that was Kevin's old position, correct?
No, it's Rick's old position. Kevin's moved up.
Well, Kevin moved up to his, and then the one that Kevin was in, we didn't refill, or?
That's right.
Okay.
So the total budget request for streets is quite a bit lower than the previous year, mostly because of that, the way it was allocated.
Progress.
All right, I'm going to ask for a little bit of time on the stormwater management because we've had some changes in the past week that have occurred. And if you, I'm not going to spoil it. Jim, you're on. Yeah, you're on.
Okay, I'm not going to talk specifically about stormwater management, but this does tie into one of our stormwater management retrofit projects for the Roberts Mill Run stormwater retrofit. You'll recall Gail Ingalls from the Carroll County Bureau of Resource Management did a presentation several months ago about the retrofit facility where we're taking a number of small stormwater ponds between the Sarah's Choice neighborhood and Roberts Mill Run neighborhoods, and we're combining those small facilities into one large wet stormwater pond. If anybody needs a refresher, I've got an aerial image up there. We can flip it up, but hopefully everybody knows pretty much where we're talking about, the missing bridge for O'Brien Avenue area. So as part of that stormwater retrofit, there's going to be a weir wall or a dam at the end, and the county has been incorporating or engineering that so that that weir wall incorporates bridge abutments for the future O'Brien Avenue bridge. Henry and I met with the county just on Monday, and they've made some revisions to the abutments, still on track for construction to begin by the end of this calendar year, as is going to be required by the grant that we got for it. But the county is willing to incorporate the road work and the bridge deck construction into the bidding process and the contract for the overall stormwater project. Now, the city would be responsible for the road work and the bridge deck itself. The rest of the work, the abutments, the weir wall, the actual stormwater retrofit, that's all being paid for through the town-county agreement. That's, we're already putting money into that stormwater retrofit fund. So we have opportunity to likely save a considerable amount of money by pursuing the bridge deck and the road connection in conjunction with the stormwater retrofit project rather than bidding it separately and having a contractor have to mobilize a second time to come out on site and do that work. It's the same type of contractor is going to be bidding on the stormwater project as is going to bid on the road work. So that opportunity to basically have the county develop the bid spec and all that is kind of new news for us. We thought we were going to have to go out, develop the bid spec, and go to bid ourselves on it. So again, we would still be responsible for paying for that part of the project, but we could realize some savings by doing it in conjunction with the stormwater retrofit. So that is going to really, and I guess we're kind of jumping a little ahead on the agenda, but that is going to speak to kind of the capital project piece. So it's sort of in between. It ties into the stormwater management stuff because it is going to be potentially, if we decide to take advantage of this, it will be part of that contract that goes out to bid, or that bid spec for the retrofit project. But we will have to make sure that we have the ability to fund it. If we do that, it would be within this coming
Suppose
fiscal
we get
year.
this bid in and decide we don't like what we see. That's way too high. Can we just not do that part?
That's right. It would be on there as either an additional phase. It would probably be presented as a separate phase of the project. So if the bids came in too high, for our liking, we could certainly not award a bid, and we're left with no road and bridge, but bridge abutments. The whole bridge is being engineered now.
Than it is right now.
It would certainly get us closer to the ultimate connection. So, but again, by moving forward with it now, and I obviously can't project what the cost would be 5 years from now if we decided to wait, but I can't imagine it's going to get any cheaper than doing it in conjunction with a $2 million stormwater project.
Well, and aside from that, the county is doing the engineering for this for us, which means if we do
Correct.
wait 5 years, it's going to have to be re-engineered at that point for whatever erosion may have taken place by then. So, I mean, we'll be saving substantial money if we can do this.
It would be worth a look, particularly in light of the good news are expecting on the HURs. So it's very possible that the HURs, as they have been passed by both houses, could provide significant amount of funding toward this. So.
I think an element of this that the council really needs to think about is the public safety aspect of what this has caused. We have 2 O'Brien Avenues that don't connect. And when there is a call on O'Brien Avenue, there's a length of time where the responders have to figure out which way they have to go to get to O'Brien Avenue, depending on the address.
We had that same situation for a number of years on Grand Drive.
Right. I mean, there is a public safety issue that is present that we need to consider when we do this, and I think that really kind of makes this, from the Planning Commission standpoint, this should be a priority for the city to get resolved finally.
We realize there are a number of capital projects that have been deferred, but again, with the opportunity to realize some significant savings by moving ahead with this project now, it may push some other projects a little farther down the road. But again, being able to bid this in conjunction with that stormwater retrofit, we could see significant savings as opposed to pursuing it ourselves a few years down the road.
It'd be probably on the top of the list, I would think.
So the county is working on some engineering estimates for us right now. We should have that before the workshop next Wednesday to give you a more realistic figure than we could right now. We just met with them Monday and said, oh, we've got a budget meeting Wednesday night, and the county wasn't able to work with their engineer to come up with the dollar figure for us in 2 days.
Okay, so they haven't floated us any numbers or anything to...
Very
not
broad,
reliable.
Very broad range.
Okay.
So, we'll have some detail by Wednesday night, but this is something that we certainly recommend that you consider moving forward with.
And what the impact on our current intended capital projects would have been Roberts Mill, and we still have 4 grants into MDE. We haven't heard anything back, but the best we're going to get out of that is going to be low interest loans. Don't see it them giving a grant. We're not disadvantaged, so there's no free money. So, and I don't know what the flavor is for going out and borrowing.
I don't think it's that crucial to get more loans at the moment, but I might be wrong.
Well, it seems like things are lined up to encourage us to pursue this O'Brien project. I mean,
Well,
I
just to clarify, Brad, on that, the stars have got to be really aligned for the other one.
Right.
Because you'd have to get all 4 of them.
Right.
Without one,
Right, I understand. So, comparing that to where we have opportunity knocking,
Right.
a tremendous opportunity for us, I think it'd be very wise for us to go forward with that. So, I'm anxious to hear what else the county gives us information-wise.
So, I know I'm jumping ahead, so what we would do is pull out the intended capital projects that we have on Roberts Mill, only leave one in, and that's we have a grant, and it's a participation thing for our lights from Maryland MEA, and we are extremely close now to having changed out all the lights in the city to LEDs.
Really?
It's funny you say that, because I noticed the other night I went outside, and on Reverton and Maryland Avenue, all of a sudden, the lights were whiter than they had been, except for the one directly across my house is still the old yellow light.
Well, we did that purposely.
I was gonna say that was on purpose.
It was on purpose, I
We did
know.
that so you could see the
That's why they
difference.
were laughing when they were putting the other ones up. But no, I did see, it's actually made a huge improvement down there. It's
Right,
much brighter.
Yeah, again, we're off a little bit, but the two improvements that we've made it's really gonna, quote, be significant savings is they, right in the past, all of our lamps had a photocell on it for lights, so each one of them is independently operated. Now what we're doing is we're going to a configuration where there's a pedestal and one that controls the string. So we reduce maintenance costs by not having to go out and change every one of these things, or 2 here, 5 there. Where if the pedestal's out, there's a switch, you throw the switch and then you get light, and then until we get it repaired.
That's usually what went out, was the photocell, not the
Right.
not the fixtures themselves, but the photocell.
In the summertime, it's a lot of wasps that like to build nests there. Okay.
All right.
I guess now we can go to Parks and Recs.
Salaries on that went down slightly because the position that was eliminated was allocated a tiny piece to that. So that made a slight difference there. The total amount of that allocated position savings is about almost 50,000 between the 4 water, sewer, and the Parks and Rec and the streets. So it's about 50,000 spread out between the 4 things there was a savings of.
Now, when you say savings of, are you taking into consideration the extra money put into IT that takes the place of that?
No.
Right,
it's
so
savings.
net savings is going to be closer to 20,000. Right.
Don't think there's anything else really significant changing with the Parks and Rec. Look at the bottom, that total operating expenditures where we've got scheduled less to spend than last year. Bottom line, it's just a small amount, but it's less.
And we also put a capital outlay for the stormwater. We put that at 300,000. That is a guess that we had at the time, and that will be refined hopefully in the next couple days.
And that would be on page 16.
I'm sorry, did I jump too soon?
That's all right. And the debt service on capital outlay went up because we're paying more principal and less interest in our loan payments.
one question I forgot to ask when we were discussing the finance department. We had a discussion last year, your predecessor encouraged us to establish a full-time position as an assistant rather than a part-time position. And some of us felt that was unnecessary. And I guess I'd just like to ask your position, or your opinion. Do you feel like you need a full-time assistant, or does a part-time assistant work just as well?
I believe there's so much volume and detail that goes into what she does with the detail of the coding and the number of invoices. I think we get 30 or 40 Potomac Edison bills every month. That's one thing. And with our system of accounting, you've got to be meticulous, take your time, do it right, and I think she's kept extremely busy. So I think that was, you know, I think that was very much warranted.
All right.
Well, the other part of that deal is that there would be a reduction of 10% or better in comp time. I haven't told her she gets comp time, so.
Well, I've only, this is only the second time I'm even going to have comp time when I stay there
Right,
for these
yeah.
meetings. Otherwise, they throw me out.
So you get the job done in the right thing.
I just wanted to ask the question. All right.
Okay.
So,
Ready to move into the water sewer?
yep.
Yeah,
Oh,
We need to take a break.
I was gonna
Now you
say,
ask and everybody's gone.
I'll just comment with, in the interest of time, because I'll admit about not quite a month ago, I went, oh my gosh, we have to get going on the budget, you know, because I've been here 3 months. And I kept the revenue estimates for the water and sewer the same because I don't think there's been anything drastic to change that. And I thought that was the safest thing to do. At
Is
this
the
time.
increase in the salaries due to reallocations mostly?
Yes. Yes, because they dropped, if you remember, there was a significant drop in the street piece. And I believe that one person was mostly allocated to street and then partially allocated. And I believe most of the people now, like anyone who's allocated now, is split 4 ways. And like I say, if you add the water, the sewer, and the 2 other water, sewer, parks and rec, and the streets, between them, the salaries did drop by nearly 50,000.
and that again can be attributed to the fact that we didn't fill that position.
Right. Plus, the office staff also have allocations to the water and sewer because of all the clerical work done with the billing.
Is that discontinued? I mean,
No, that's in here as
Oh,
well.
yeah, that should be there.
Yeah, it's in there.
Out of curiosity, the interest income I see did not increase, whereas in other parts of the budget, I see that had increased for the water.
I looked at that, and that doesn't, because at first I looked at the actual and I said, wow, that's only 6,000, and then it was 30, and I think it's gradually been it's kind of going like this. It's not going, like there's more and more every month, I think.
Okay,
Because the balance is getting larger in that fund.
okay,
And so initially I didn't raise it because I wasn't sure if we were even going to make that for this year.
okay.
But now it looks like we will make that for this year. So I left it the same because like I said, I was being conservative.
Okay.
And the interest expense on the bottom water and sewer is dropping because we're paying more toward the principal on the loans.
Right.
Very happy I found that spreadsheet where it had all the stuff, and I was able to update them.
Out of curiosity, Henry, for uniforms, do we utilize a uniform service for that, or do we?
It's a little bit of a little bit of both. We have a company that we buy those uniforms from, as well as the shoes.
Okay,
There's an annual allocation that they get.
The employees basically buy their uniforms and then they're reimbursed for them.
okay. So we haven't looked into having a uniform company where you're essentially leasing the uniforms as opposed to what we're doing now?
No, I haven't done that.
That could be something that we look into. I would imagine any commercial uniform rental company would be more expensive. I don't know that, but I expect it would. But the other side of it is, it certainly would be more professional. Our guys are out among the community daily in a proper city uniform. It gives
Well,
people a sense of security, that's all.
For the better part of it, first of all, they should be having their ID with them all times, you know. And second thing is that they are all in this, the same fluorescent or whatever that's called, color uniform that has the city logo on it.
Okay.
Now pants, you know, we've never really gotten into, you know, coming up with a uniform. And, you know, the way they wear them out, I'm probably glad we don't.
Well, and that's part of why the uniform companies come in handy, because they simply rotate in a new pair if something gets worn
You
out.
get a new pair every
Well, we don't pay for the pants anyhow, so.
It's a thought to consider. If it's going to cost more, obviously it's not ideal, but I've seen companies that save a tremendous amount of money by using uniform service instead of buying uniforms and having to replace them so often, so.
Yeah, in my previous life, that they utilized that, as well as management had a uniform as well too.
Mm-hmm.
So we had, you know, white shirts,
Right.
blazers, and then gray pants, all dress.
Maybe something to consider. It could help or not, but
But there was also the rental fee, plus there is also a fee for cleaning the uniform too.
well, it's usually wrapped up in a package, kind of a per person sort of a thing.
Right.
And depending on the quality of uniform you choose, but just something to consider,
All right.
maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure Cintas, who services our first aid kits very eagerly every month, would be happy to give us a quote.
Mean sell us more than Band-Aids? Is it?
Disinfectant wipes, we buy 500 disinfectant wipes a month. Do you know that?
What do you disinfect in City Hall, Henry, that requires?
Actually, they're probably not disinfectant wipes as much as they are eyeglass cleaner that has, you know, alcohol in it. He's using it for the wrong purpose.
I sign a lot of checks in a month's time.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the one that I'd hate to sign the most, is that
You
Cintas.
used 5 more Tylenol this month.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep, okay. Well, that's my,
And that's another thing,
Contribution.
you buy a bottle of 50 Tylenol for $17.50 when you could go up to the CVS, who's the highest price in town, and pay $1.95.
well, we could reconsider all of that then.
But anyway, I'm off the subject. Let's get
okay.
back on
Yes, you
track.
are.
Before you really get into that consideration, that is required by MOSHA.
Well, I know. Not to buy from Cintas. That might be required by motion, but
You
it's
gotta
not-
have a
we don't
first
have to
aid
buy
kit,
from
yeah.
Cintas.
All right, we'll rely on you to buy all that stuff. That'll work.
Anyway, as I say, we have business at hand.
Barry, you want to point us to the
Are
page where we're
Any
supposed to
other
be?
questions on the water and sewer?
Yeah?
All right. Thank you, Brad. I didn't say that.
But I would just like to point out, they're coming in at slightly more revenue over expenditures, like not quite 19,000, so 18.5, so.
It concerns me that we add expenses to our budget for managing growth, code enforcement, planning and zoning, etc. But we have nothing to offset that. We're not bringing anything into the budget to offset that.
That's a lose. Hey, you answer.
Well,
In other words, our budget goes up each year because we have more water meters to provide, we have more facilities to inspect, we have more instances that the police need to respond to. And all that adds to the cost of doing business in the city. But yet, we're not showing any revenue from these new residents, these new homes, these new businesses to offset that.
Well, we're not anticipating
wrong with
revenue.
but I think it is included as on the general fund side, because your constant yield tax rate is what the revenue you'd bring in based on the assessments that you have versus last year. So this year, you're gonna bring in 75,000 more because you have higher assessments. Now that is also because you were reassessed, but the tax base grows as well. So it is it's not on a dollar for dollar basis, but it is built in that the more growth you have, you will have more revenue from your property tax. 75,000 is this year's number.
Right, now when they figure out that constant yield, do they take into account any growth at all? I mean, do they add in and,
They
It's property
do it on
value, yeah.
actuals.
Yeah, property value.
it's all actual, like what's existing, okay,
Yeah, the actual assessable base of the town.
okay. I didn't know if they did like a 3% growth or any
We could send
other
you, it's a
figures.
one pager. I mean,
Yeah, it's right. I have
but
it.
they don't do an estimate. They say, this is your actual last year times your rate. This is what revenue you made, period. Here's what this is times your rate. This is what revenue you would make. Here's the difference. Then they do one more calculation to divide that out to show what your revenue would be, what your rate would be if you kept the revenue the same.
Based on their new assessments. I think you sent this to us last year. I think I remember seeing that before. Okay.
You want it again, we can do it. It's just a matter of, again, Barry's still catching on the ropes.
Well, I believe there's talk of another meeting. Is that correct, Henry?
Well, yeah. Next Wednesday, sounds good to me.
That's our workshop, regular workshop.
Oh, then we're gonna have a meeting then, right? I was right to begin with. All right, so, again, some of the things we need to take into consideration is all the steps that we have to do prior.
Right.
And the drop dead date is June 11th. We cannot go past June 11th. So it all depends on how soon you want to do this.
Well, we've asked,
I'd like to knock it out as soon as possible.
right, we've asked for a lot of information tonight, so,
Yeah.
I mean, how much time?
Sometime next week would be, I'm sure we would be able to do it. Well, tomorrow's Thursday
Yes,
and Friday is a holiday.
right.
So, well, probably nothing will really get done until next week.
I don't know, I might work my butt off tomorrow.
You can
There's a
speak for
volunteer.
you, don't speak for her.
There's a volunteer. Yeah.
But does that mean the whole schedule gets pushed back? Right? That's the
Well,
understanding.
what is the schedule now? I don't know that I've seen our,
We're going to introduce it in
We
April
sent it out to everybody.
and adopt it in May. You know, the dates. So introduce it in April, adopt it in May. If you're not prepared to introduce it in April, that means tomorrow at the end of business, it needs to be done because it needs to go out to you all. So it has to be done tomorrow if you're going to do that. Unless you're going to introduce a budget that you're going to talk about changes to and then have a hearing on. Somehow there's got to be a hearing in there, and the hearing is usually not on what you're drafting, it's on what you're proposing to adopt, if you follow me.
so, I mean, right now, when do you have that public hearing theoretically scheduled, according to yours?
The work session in May.
May.
Next Wednesday?
May.
May. That's different altogether.
Yeah, that's what I was.
And so you could effectively slide everything a month. You could introduce
I
it
think
in
that's what
May
you're gonna have to
and
do.
I
have
think
your
so.
hearing in June at the work session and adopt it. But as the city manager said, you can't push past that. June 18th is the absolute deadline to certify the tax rates. So you can take your time up front or you can take your time in the back, but you can't do both.
Just
But,
for what it's worth, I think the way the chart reads, and correct me if I'm wrong, the mayor submits the budget to council and council approves the budget. And I'm not ready to submit it to the council.
So we'll spend some time.
So what does that
discussing
I didn't
mean?
hear what you
And then
said.
get it through.
He's not ready to submit it to the council. How about an interpretation of what that means in real things?
oh, I think we all need a
I
lot
just,
more information.
we need more information from the things we discussed tonight. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. This time it's a joint venture.
So, do we want to talk about dates to follow up on this?
Yeah,
April 11th?
that works for me.
That would be the second Wednesday of April?
Second Wednesday of April, I will not be here. I will be in Georgia.
Georgia, Parks and Rec?
That's right.
Oh,
I'll be
Make a note of that.
returning the 16th. so
There's a BZA meeting in this room that night.
Oh,
I'll be going
right.
from the 11th
This
to the
place, busy
16th.
place that night.
right,
Mayor Pro Tem.
how about,
I see. I heard you.
Huh?
can we back it up one day, the 10th?
That would work for me. Well, wait, when are you leaving for Georgia?
What?
He said he was going to be in
Something
Georgia
going
the
on.
11th, so when do you leave for Georgia?
Gotta be done
Do
before
you leave
then.
on the 10th?
On the 10th. He leaves
Okay.
on the 10th.
When do you come back?
The 16th.
Okay.
Can we do it the
thank you.
17th? And we can,
Tax day.
I'm done. I already did mine. They're gone.
It's okay with me.
Well, if it matters, I'm not gonna be around either.
On the 17th?
For what day?
Okay.
You going to Colorado again? April 5th. It's a Thursday.
I'm good.
Oh, that works.
April 5th.
April 5th, week from tomorrow.
You're not going, I'm not going.
How's that for you, Diane?
Okay.
April 5th, how's it look for you?
I don't know why I didn't bring my daggone phone tonight.
I don't either.
What? No idea.
Well, we can put it down, it'll change.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Well, yeah, we,
All right, put it down.
okay.
That's the problem, I'll let you know. I don't,
Same time,
that's a
Same
Thursday?
time. Yes.
Yeah.
All right, well, we still need to hear from Councilman Vigliotti, and Councilman Frazier's gonna check on it, so we'll,
And the mayor's gonna check on everybody's check.
as long as we have you, Diane, we're good.
Set a backup one right now, so that
Yeah.
it's not all emails. If somebody can't make this one, there's another. Because you know that's next week and nobody's working after tomorrow and you.
Okay, next.
Well, at that point, the backup's gonna have to go to like the last week of April, considering the mayor's schedule and Henry's schedule.
Do you think you could do it after
I'm
the?
just a couple of days, halfway.
Could you
I'm
do it
going on-
after the Monday meeting?
Depending on the agenda of the Monday meeting.
Depends on whether we're talking about having the budget on. Nothing on it at this point, which was the point. You already have that on the calendar. And I don't know how long it's gonna take, but if you got your meeting done by 8,
Yeah, it doesn't look like we have a lot of stuff.
Well, we won't spend the time we've spent tonight on this
Right.
next session.
Hopefully not. Okay, so
I don't mind giving it a
do you want to do a backup of after?
so if you can't make the 5th, you could do the 8th.
Let's do that.
The ninth?
That's a good plan. Let's do,
Okay,
What, the 9th?
yeah,
If the 5th doesn't work.
we'll just stay late.
4/9.
So by implication, we're not gonna have the budget.
So is that the first choice or the second choice?
That's the second choice.
That's second. So we're hoping for the 5th first.
Yes.
So this is after the meeting, so we would schedule it for like,
So budget workshop part 2.
I think you just put it on the agenda as adjourned to budget workshop,
okay.
and then it's whenever you get done.
Okay. Henry, did you have other house cleaning things for that, or just schedule that meeting? You said you had things to discuss after the meeting, so I was.
It was the dates.
So I don't want to belabor the point, but I haven't heard anybody actually say it. We're not going to introduce the budget
Right.
in April, right? So the introduction will be in May, and the adoption will be on June 11th.
Okay.
Come hell or high water.
Yeah, it's pretty much at that point in time. Your hearing will be on June 6th then. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.